everybody. Thank you for joining me again. It is 12 o'clock. It's Tuesday. That means it's time for Design Tea Live. My name is Angela. I'm the owner of Wilson Lee Interiors and Boutique. We are an award-winning interior design firm, and our work is featured around the country. Today, I hear it coming. I can hear it coming. Today, our hot tea is interior design minimalism. Have you seen that craze going around? If you're on Instagram, you've seen it. If you bought a magazine, you've seen it. A lot of it is very, very pale and white, and it is called minimalism in interior design. Some people love it, some people hate it. Let me tell you where minimalism works best. Small spaces, because it is easy on the eye, it doesn't clutter spaces, and so minimalism works well if you have a small space. Now, some people don't like minimalism, because they feel like it's cold, or they feel like it doesn't give enough interest. I'm a fan of balance in interior design. So I think minimalism works well if your space is suitable for it. Otherwise, it's probably not a good idea for you. You can do minimalism, but do it in certain areas. It's like if you want to add some color to your walls, but you want to be in keeping with minimalism, then maybe you do a lighter color. So maybe you don't do white, but you do like a pale gray, or you do like a green that has a gray wash. So the great thing that I do love about minimalizing is that you can follow the clarity, balance, and beauty principles so easily when you practice minimalizing. You can do plants, you can do wallpaper, you can do colors in certain areas. Most people who like color but also want to do minimalizing will do pops of colors in certain areas. So you may not have everything wowed out in all the different colors, but you'll have color on, maybe the things on your bookshelves will be colorful. Maybe you have a pretty neutral monochromatic color scheme, aside from the fact that you might have like pillows that have pops of color. So, and then the great thing about minimalizing that I love is the lack of clutter. Clutter is one of those things that it just bothers me. I don't like color. I don't like clutter in any form. I don't like clutter when it comes to things on shelving. I don't like clutter when it comes to clothing in my closet. I just try and keep everything neat and orderly, and that's how I try to live my life. I don't always succeed. Some days I fail, but for the most part, I want to live a clutter-free life because it helps me, and I think it helps everyone to be able to function, think, and react better in their environments. Now, today we're going to delve into shelves. And while I'm delving into shelves, I'm going to practice minimalization so that you can see kind of what that looks like in a practical sense. I said shelving instead of bookshelves because not everyone has custom bookshelves available to them. Not every home has custom bookshelves. They're great when you can have them. Not everyone has bookshelves that is built in. So you can buy shelving and create a look that is just as good as a custom bookshelf, and in many cases, even better. So I don't know if you've noticed behind me, but there's an empty shelf that I'm going to deck out today using some minimalization practices, but also giving it a pop of color and a wow factor. All right, let's get to it. So I'm going to start on the top shelf with a pair of vases. My voice went into the vase. I'm going to start with a pair of vases. So this one, I love this. It's kind of a navy blue color. And before I get to that, let me tell you about this wallpaper in the background. So I think that this would be a totally different look if the wallpaper weren't here. If this were a solid painted wall, this would give a whole nother look, and it really would be very minimalistic and almost sparse. Except for I'm going to dress this up with some accessories. So I'm going to use a ladder because I can't reach the top shelf, and I'll start there. I'm going to put the largest of the vases on top. I think I'll kick off my shoe because I don't want to come tumbling down. All right, so I'm going to do the largest of the vases, like so. And I love that the vase kind of picks up on the pattern of the wallpaper. And then I'm going to do the smaller of the vase. So in this case, I'm doing a pear. And I want to get it centered as best as possible. Now, coming out of the vase, I'm going to do something that serves a couple of different purposes. One, these are like sculptured flowers. And I believe that plants should be everywhere, even when they're not real. So this is a metal flower, and I'm only using 2 because I think a little bit goes a long way when you're doing these things, because we really want them to be more sculptural than anything else. And they just add a little bit of extra oomph to the vase. And it stays in with our practice of minimalizing everything. So I'm going to put it in the larger vase. And if you have a lower table, that will also work well for this particular application, especially since then the flower will be lower and you can see it. But I don't have space in between here to do that lower, so that's why I'm putting it up higher. A console table that has that down low would be like really pretty, so that everyone could enjoy it. Now, my other principle for shelving, I believe that shelving should always have some books on it. I'm going to start with bookends. And I love these guys because they hold the books up, but they also add sculpture to what I'm doing. And they make me feel, they look strong and powerful. And I like that aspect about them. And looking at them makes me feel strong and powerful. So love those bookends for that reason. Plus, the color is great and they go in all kinds of environments. These books, I love these. They are so pretty. They are meant to add a splash of color, a splash of texture without being overwhelming. And the great thing about them, and I use these in a lot of different interior designs, the great thing about them is they are a real book. So when you open it up, you could actually sit and read The Black Reckoning in this one. Is the title of that book. And the title of this one, let's see what it is. American Cornball. I think this might teach you a number of things, including how to play the game. Never heard of that book before, but these are real books nonetheless. So we put the books in between the book ends, and I want to position it just so that they look their very best, and let these strong guys hold the books up in this case. Now, another thing about bookshelves is we want to use photographs, but sparingly. We don't want to have a photo shelf in this case. So I'm going to do just a simple frame next to these books, and then make sure that my scale is perfect on the shelf itself. All right, now because I did books here, I'm going to do another set of books on the next shelf, because after all, I want to give the feeling of that this is a bookshelf, even though it's not a built-in bookshelf. It is all the same. For just all intents and purposes, I'm using these shelving as a bookshelf decor shelf so that you can curate the look that you're looking for your own space. Now, I'm going to stack, well, I'm going to skip a little bit. I'm going to go to my jars first. So I'm a big fan of pink, and anytime I get a chance to work a little bit of it in someplace, then I do. I love all of the colors in here. It has variations of pink, has a little bit of white, and a little bit of fuchsia going around. So with these jars, they come in, this is a set, and it comes in multiple heights. So when you're doing your shelving, vary it up so that things have more interest that way. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I like something that represents life on my bookshelves. So I'm not doing a plant because not everyone is able to care for a plant. If you can, then right here would be a great place to add a live plant. But I'm going to add this faux moss ball because it acts as a real life plant on this shelf for me. Don't you like how that looks? That is so pretty. And it's a nice strong pop of green, which emphasizes life, and a part of clarity, balance, and beauty is the healing part of the color green that helps us to rejuvenate and feel good about the world, even when things are not going the best that they can be. All right, so let's see. Now I'm going to go back to the next shelf. I'm going to go back to the next shelf, and I'm going to do, again, I'm going to add in books on that shelf, and then another decorative part. So I'm going to do books there, and I don't want to just have books. I mean, I could because it's a nice and clean look, so I could just do a stack of books. I want to get them in the right order. I could just do a stack of books, and that would be just fine, but I want to top my stack of books off with a diffuser. And this diffuser is made from porcelain, and you see the liquid inside. And the purpose of these is, you know how you see diffusers and they have like the sticks that come out every which way, and that's okay, nothing wrong with those. But for this purpose, I wanted to do something that was pretty and decorative. And so I added a diffuser like this that looks like it's really just a piece of art and decor. So I'm going to sit that on top of my book just because it's pretty. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to add is another decorative piece, but this decorative piece is a little small scale compared to everything else that I have on the shelving unit. So what I'm going to do and how I'm going to make that better is I'm going to add a riser that is like a lucite riser. It's acrylic. We also call it lucite in the design industry, where I'm going to sit just this shelf, the riser, on the shelf. And then I'm going to add this sphere on top of it because now that I have the lucite in place, which is the riser, then it gives it the height that I need this piece to have. And so it stands alone by itself. It's very minimalistic, and it looks nice compared to all the other things on the shelf. Now, if you go down to the very bottom, you might see my feet down there. If you go down to the very bottom of the shelf, I added some colorful balls, which I could have really moved those up to here and to where the moss ball is and put the colorful balls up there. But for weight's sake, I wanted a heavier thing on the bottom, and I wanted a punch of color on the bottom. So I like that in that position. and then I added another stack of books. So you could do books that you have at your home. You could do books that, like we have here that we sell in our boutique, that have these really pretty coordinated spines that stand out. If you use books that you have at your home in this type of minimalist environment, what you want to do is you want to take off the cover and just have the book itself be featured. That way it'll be in keeping with the minimalist approach. If you don't want to do the minimalist approach and you're doing maybe a more earthy look or a more transitional look with your shelving, then it's perfectly fine to leave covers on books. So this is my how to put your bookcase together in a minimalist way. The thing about minimalization is you don't want to have a lot of things on your bookcase. You don't want to have really tiny things on your bookcase. You want to have things that are large enough to be seen and make a statement without it being too much clutter. So fewer pieces, but more substantial ones. I call that like statement pieces. And you can do several of them with varying degrees of interest that all, when put all together, gives you an undeniable, fantastic bookshelf worthy of all the wows that you will get from the people who will enter your space. Let's move on to nailed it or failed it. And I want you to look at this fantastic nailed it. So this shelf is pretty much a minimalist shelf, but it's practical because it has a storage on the bottom of it. So on the bottom you can put little things in there that you need to put away that you might not want to be seen, and you can also put out things that you do want to be seen. So if you notice on this nailed it shelf, they implemented some plants and they did different shapes to complement the shelving. They put some pictures up high because that was higher to reach and it adds great interest. And they pretty much did one or two things on each shelf and they alternated. So that is a great way to nail your bookshelves. So on this failed it shelf, you will see there's a lot of clutter on this shelf, and it's not necessarily that it's so bad what they have on there, it's just not maintained. So in this case, they get a big failed it. See those binders that they have? The binders could all be categorized together so that this shelf looks neat and orderly, and it wouldn't have to be anything decorative on it because this is probably just a functional shelf for the things that they need to take care of on a day-to-day basis, where they organize and keep their life and the things that they have going on. So not every shelf needs to be decked out with decorations, but we do need to organize it in some form of fashion. So I would just put all the notebooks and binders together and then put the books together, maybe put the smaller books on the outside and the taller books on the inside. And then that way we have a more pleasing to the eye shelf. So, but today they are failing it. Okay, so now this bookshelf is going to get an E for effort. They could be better, it could be better. But they did do a few things that I really like. I see a plant there, and you know how I love a plant on a shelf. So that is a great thing. And they do have the upper shelf, the top shelf, slightly organized. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder why they have that plant so high up. And then I remembered that at my house, I do have a shelf that has a plant that cascades down a little bit. And that plant is kind of hard for me to water. And I've come to the conclusion that I just put some water in a cup and I reach up there and I pour it all around the inside of the plant. I really can't see what I'm doing. But the plant is thriving, so hey, what can you say? Sometimes the plant can't be low so that you can maintain it. And it looks like they're having a problem with space and height, so that's probably why that plant is on top. So they get an E for effort on that shelf. For Ask Angela. So the question was, how can I make my bookshelves look lovely and pretty without cluttering them up? That is a problem and dilemma that many of us face. In my job, that is something I'm always having a yin and a yang conversation with my clients about where these meaningful photographs really belong. So as you see in my shelf design today, I did add a photograph, and I could have really comfortably added one more and still have this be a beautiful, phenomenal design, but no more than that given what I have to work with here. Now, if I wanted to, getting back to your question, the way to do that is to find other places to hang your photographs. Decide on, maybe do a wall gallery. I love those. I do them in almost every one of my design projects just because they work so well, and you can easily tell family stories there. They become a hub for people to gather and talk about different photographs and who the person is in the photograph and how long ago it was that the photograph was taken. And it's just fun. Everybody who I do one of those for, they always tell me when I see them how much of a hit their photo wall gallery is. You can put them in places that will be seen for a guest, certain pictures, and you can put certain pictures in places that will only be seen by family members. So try to limit the number of photos on a shelf. I would say one every other shelf is a good rule for how to handle not having too many photos out. One every other shelf. So in my case, that would have given me, because I'm not going to really count this top shelf as a shelf, because sometimes, depending on how high your ceilings are, you can put things up there, and sometimes you can't. So if you count the top shelf, then you could do a photo here, but not one here. A photo here, but not one here. That would mean you would have a photo on the bottom shelf, which is okay if it's a larger photograph. So, not too many photographs on your shelves, and find other places that you can hang photographs and create galleries and make them an actual feature, and that will go over much, much better and much more graciously than just stacking pictures everywhere. The other thing is they now have the slideshow frames that we're using with our clients so that they can show many photographs at one time in a slideshow. So it's kind of techy, and depending on the design that your home is, it may fit in, it might stand out a little bit, but it still becomes a conversation piece as people are like watching your shows to see which photograph is going to come up next. So that's a good way to show off all your family photos without having them consume all of the space. We still like taking photographs, and that's a great thing to create memories, but we do have to find creative ways to display them in our homes. That was a great question. That question came in from my Instagram feed. I want to thank you all for joining me today as we delved into shelves. For more information on how to treat your shelving, go to awilsonlee.com/design-tea, and then you can have access to my Delve into Shelves ebook, absolutely free, when you go there and sign up to receive it. It's so good. You'll see, like, I think I did bookshelves from 4 different projects, and the stories behind them, they're really good. So I don't want you to miss out on that. So go over and get that. And thank you for tuning in today and watching me on Design Tea Live. I'd like for you to go and like, subscribe, and comment on things that would help you out around the house. Thank you. Bye-bye.